Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt like life is a storm, tossing you around with no safe shore in sight? Bills pile up, relationships strain, unexpected challenges knock at your door. And in the middle of it all, the question echoes, how can I stay calm when everything is falling apart? Let's go back to a night on the Sea of Galilee. The wind howls, the waves crash into the boat. The disciples, seasoned fishermen, are terrified. They see death in the storm. And where is Jesus? Asleep. Now pause for a moment. Imagine the scene. Darkness all around, water flooding the boat, and there, in perfect stillness, Jesus rests. Why? Because his peace does not come from the absence of storms. It comes from trust in something greater. This is the first and most profound lesson. Calm in the midst of chaos. Jesus shows us that peace is not the result of a perfect life. It is not found in the right circumstances, the right people, or the right bank balance. It is a choice, a discipline, a trust. The disciples saw the storm and believed they were perishing. Jesus saw the storm and remained secure. Why? Because he knew who controlled the wind and the waves. So let me ask you, what storm is raging in your life right now? Is it financial uncertainty, a broken relationship, a burden too heavy to carry? The world tells us to panic. Jesus tells us to rest. Today you have a choice. Will you let the storm define your peace? Or will you choose calm in the chaos? Take a deep breath. Release the fear. And remember, the storm may be strong, but your faith can be stronger. Jesus chose silence when falsely accused, demonstrating that silence can be a powerful response, disarming conflict and showing confidence in God's justice. Have you ever been falsely accused? Have you ever wanted to defend yourself, to shout the truth, to prove them all wrong? Now picture this. Jesus stands before his accusers, priests, elders, an angry crowd. Lies are being hurled at him like stones. The tension is thick, the injustice undeniable. And yet, he says nothing. No defense, no retaliation, just silence. Why? Because Jesus understood something most of us struggle with. Silence is not weakness. It is power. The power of restraint. In a world where everyone fights to have the last word, where social media is a battlefield of opinions, silence can be the most disarming weapon. It is a declaration that you are not controlled by the noise around you. Think about it. When someone insults you, your instinct is to fight back. But what happens when you respond with silence? It unsettles them. It shifts the power. Jesus' silence was not surrender. It was sovereignty. He did not need to prove his innocence. He trusted in a higher justice. When to choose? Silence. When accusations come, and words will not change hearts, choose silence. When emotions run high, and a response will only add fuel to the fire, choose silence. When you are misunderstood, and explanations will only deepen the divide, choose silence. Silence does not mean passivity. It means choosing battles wisely. It means placing trust in something beyond human approval. So the next time someone challenges your character, the next time you're drawn into a war of words, ask yourself, do I need to prove my innocence, or do I need to trust in something greater? Because sometimes the loudest statement you can make is saying nothing at all. Imagine this. You're walking down a busy street, lost in thought, rushing to your next obligation, and then you see someone in need. Maybe it's a homeless man on the sidewalk. Maybe it's a coworker with red-rimmed eyes. Maybe it's a friend hiding pain behind a forced smile. Now be honest, do you stop? Or do you walk on, telling yourself you're too busy, too tired, too overwhelmed? This is the difference between a reactive life and a calm one. Jesus tells the story of a man beaten, left for dead on the side of the road. A priest walks by. Two men who should have cared, but they were too preoccupied, too distracted, too busy. Then comes the Samaritan, a man with every excuse to pass by. He was of the wrong background. He had his own life, his own problems. But he stops, he sees, he helps. Why? Because he was calm enough to notice. Calmness creates space for compassion. When we are anxious, we become self-focused. We miss the pain around us because we are too busy managing our own storms. But when we are calm, when we trust that our needs are in God's hands, we create space for others. We notice, we respond. Think about it. When was the last time you truly saw someone in need? When was the last time you paused your own worries to comfort another? Jesus shows us that calmness is not just about inner peace. It is about outward action. The calmer we are, the more room we have to love. So today ask yourself, who needs my compassion? It might be a stranger. It might be a friend. It might be someone in this very room. Don't let distraction steal your ability to love. Slow down, look around, and be the Samaritan in a world full of busy people. The power of solitude. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by life's noise? The constant messages, notifications, opinions, and pressures pulling you in every direction. When was the last time you were truly alone? Not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Jesus understood something we often forget. True strength is forged in solitude. Into the wilderness before beginning his ministry, before performing miracles, before teaching crowds, Jesus went into the desert, alone, no distractions, no comforts, just silence, fasting, prayer. Why? Because solitude is not isolation, it is preparation. In that wilderness, Jesus was tested, tempted, challenged, and yet he emerged stronger, more focused, unwavering. What if your desert, the loneliness you feel, the quiet season you're in, is actually your place of transformation? Solitude as a source of strength. We live in a world that fears silence. The moment we are alone, we reach for our phones, turn on music, fill the space with distractions. But when was the last time you sat in stillness and listened to your own heart, to God, to the truth beneath all the noise? Jesus shows us that solitude is not about escaping people. It's about reconnecting with purpose, how to embrace the power of solitude. Step away from distractions. Find moments to unplug. No phone, no social media, no rush. Use silence to pray, reflect, and refocus. Ask yourself, what is God trying to teach me in this quiet? Don't fear loneliness. Embrace it as a place of growth. Some of the greatest revelations come when we are alone with our thoughts. If Jesus needed solitude to gain strength, why do we think we can survive without it? So I ask you, when was the last time you withdrew to a quiet place? Not to escape, but to grow? The world will always be noisy, but peace, real, unshakable peace, is found in the stillness. Forgiveness brings peace. Think about the deepest hurt you've ever experienced. A betrayal, a lie, a wound so deep it still lingers. What do you do with that pain? Most of us carry it. We replay the offense in our minds, justifying our anger. We hold on to resentment like armor, believing it protects us, but in reality, it traps us. It steals our peace. The ultimate act of forgiveness. Now imagine Jesus on the cross, bloodied, beaten, betrayed by friends, mocked by the very people he came to save. And in that moment of unimaginable suffering, he does something radical. He doesn't curse them. He doesn't seek revenge. He forgives. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. If anyone had the right to hold on to anger, it was Jesus. And yet, he let it go. Not because they deserved it, not because they apologized, but because forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about your own freedom, the burden of unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is like carrying a heavy chain. You think you're punishing the other person, but in reality, you're the one weighed down. Resentment poisons peace. It shackles joy. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was okay. It's saying you refuse to let it control you. How to forgive and find peace. Acknowledge the pain, but don't live in it. Feel it, process it, but don't let it define you. Pray for the person who hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because it sets your heart free. Remember, forgiveness is a choice, not a feeling. You don't have to wait until you feel like forgiving. Jesus forgave while he was still suffering. Let me ask you, who do you need to forgive today? A friend, a parent, yourself? Jesus shows us that forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength. It is the key to true peace. And that peace, it's worth everything. Living in the present. Let me ask you something. How much of your life is spent worrying about a future that hasn't even happened yet? We worry about money, about health, about relationships. We play out worst-case scenarios in our minds. We stress over problems that may never come, and in doing so, we miss the one thing we actually have, this moment. Jesus' message, do not worry. Jesus knew the human heart. He saw how fear of the future steals the joy of today. And so he gave this simple but profound command. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Jesus wasn't saying life would be easy. He wasn't promising that problems wouldn't come. But he was saying that worrying about the future does nothing to change it. Why do we struggle to live in the present? Because we don't trust that God will provide. Because we believe control equals security. Because our minds are trained to chase what if, instead of embracing what is. But here's the truth. Peace is only found in the present. Anxiety lives in the future. Regret lives in the past. If you are constantly chasing tomorrow or reliving yesterday, you are missing the life God has for you right now. How to let go of worry and live calmly. Replace worry with trust. Ask yourself, do I believe God is in control, or do I think I have to manage everything on my own? Practice gratitude for today. Look around. Notice the small blessings. Focus on what is here, not what is missing. Take life one step at a time. When you feel overwhelmed, breathe. Handle today's challenges. Tomorrow will come when it comes. Let me ask you, what future worry is stealing your peace right now? Jesus invites you to release it, to trust, to breathe, to be fully present. Because the life you want, the peace you long for, it's not in tomorrow. It's right here. Calm decision-making. Have you ever made a decision in the heat of the moment, one you later regretted? Maybe out of fear, frustration, or pressure. How different would your life be if every major decision came from a place of calm instead of chaos? Jesus' example. Choosing with wisdom. Before Jesus chose his 12 disciples, the men who would carry his message to the world, he didn't rush the decision. He didn't choose based on convenience, popularity, or pressure. What did he do? Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray and spent the night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him and chose 12 of them. He paused, he prayed, he sought wisdom before acting. Why do we struggle with calm decision-making? We let emotions take over. Fear, anger, excitement. When unchecked, They push us into rash choices. We feel pressured by time. The world tells us to hurry, but wise decisions are rarely rushed. We trust our own understanding more than God's. Instead of seeking guidance, we rely on our limited perspective. Jesus teaches us that the best decisions are not made in panic, but in peace. How to make decisions like Jesus. Pause before reacting. Not every decision requires an immediate answer. Step back, breathe, give it time, seek guidance, pray, reflect, consult with people who are wise and grounded. Make choices from faith, not fear. Ask yourself, am I choosing this because I trust God, or because I'm afraid of what might happen? Look at the long-term impact. Jesus wasn't just picking followers. He was choosing leaders for the future. Think beyond the moment. Your challenge. What big decision is weighing on your heart right now? Have you taken it to God? Have you made space for clarity before acting? Rushed decisions bring regret. Calm decisions bring peace. So today, before you act, pause, pray, and proceed with wisdom. Wisdom in silence. Imagine the scene. A woman is dragged through the streets, surrounded by angry men with stones in their hands. The crowd is shouting, demanding justice. The tension is electric. The pressure is overwhelming. And in the center of it all stands Jesus. They turn to him, testing him, pushing for a response. Teacher, this woman was caught in adultery. The law says to stone her. What do you say? What would you do in that moment? Fight, argue, defend. Jesus does something unexpected. He kneels down and writes in the dirt. The power of silence. No rushed words, no panicked response, just silence. The crowd waits, confused. The tension shifts, and then after a long pause, Jesus finally speaks. Let the one who is without sin cast the first stone. One by one, the accusers drop their stones and walk away, not because Jesus argued with them, but because his silence spoke louder than their shouts. Calmness turns chaos into grace. How often do we react too quickly, saying things we regret, escalating situations instead of diffusing them? Jesus teaches us that wisdom is not always in speaking, but in knowing when to be silent. Silence creates space. Space for reflection, for wisdom, for grace to enter where anger once ruled. How to apply this in your life? Pause before reacting. When tensions rise, take a breath. You don't have to respond immediately. Use silence as a tool, not a weapon. Silence isn't about ignoring people. It's about creating room for truth to emerge. Ask yourself, will my words bring peace or fuel the fire? If the answer is fire, step back and wait. Your challenge. Think of a recent conflict. What if, instead of rushing to speak, you had paused? How might the outcome have changed? Jesus shows us that sometimes the wisest thing we can do is to kneel, stay silent, and let grace do the talking. Childlike simplicity. Have you ever watched a child marvel at something ordinary? A butterfly, a puddle, a dandelion carried by the wind. Their eyes widen, their laughter is pure. They are fully present, fully trusting, fully alive. Now ask yourself, when did life stop feeling that simple? Jesus, invitation. Become like a child. One day, as Jesus was teaching, people brought children to him. The disciples tried to send them away. After all, children weren't seen as important. But Jesus stopped them. Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. Why would Jesus say this? Because children live with a simplicity that adults forget. They trust without overthinking. They find joy in small things. They aren't weighed down by worry about tomorrow. Why do we lose childlike faith? We become too self-sufficient. Instead of trusting, we try to control. We overcomplicate life. We fill our minds with worries plans, and anxieties that rob us of joy. We stop seeing beauty in the ordinary. What once amazed us now feels normal. But Jesus calls us back to simple faith, back to wonder, back to trusting that God is in control, so we don't have to be. How to live with childlike simplicity. Let go of unnecessary worries. Children don't stress about what's beyond their control. Why should you? Find joy in small things. Slow down, look around, be amazed again. Trust like a child. Instead of overanalyzing, rest in the knowledge that God's got you. Your challenge. Today, try seeing the world through childlike eyes. Where can you find joy? Where can you let go? Jesus reminds us, faith isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about trusting the one who does. Patience in relationships, the path to true love and peace. Have you ever been frustrated with someone you care about? Maybe a friend who keeps making the same mistakes, a family member who just doesn't seem to understand you, or a colleague who tests your limits every single day. It's in these moments that patience feels impossible, like trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands. But let me ask you this. What if patience is the very thing that transforms that relationship? Look at Jesus. He surrounded himself with people who were deeply flawed. Peter, impulsive, emotional, always speaking before thinking. Thomas, skeptical, slow to believe. James and John, ambitious, sometimes self-centered. Yet Jesus never rushed their growth, never exploded in frustration. Instead, he walked with them, taught them, corrected them with love. He saw beyond their weaknesses to the people they were becoming. Patience is not passivity. It's not ignoring problems or pretending that someone's mistakes don't matter. It's choosing to respond with love instead of frustration. It's understanding that growth takes time. Think about a seed. You don't plant it one day and expect a tree the next. You water it, nurture it, and wait. Relationships work the same way. What if today, instead of reacting with irritation, you chose patience? Instead of snapping, you took a breath. Instead of walking away, you leaned in with love. Imagine what that could do for your friendships, your marriage, your family. Jesus' patience wasn't weakness. It was strength. And today, you have the chance to reflect that same strength. Will you take it? Being peacemakers. The courage to mend what's broken. Have you ever been in the middle of a conflict? Maybe between two friends, within your family, or even at work. It's uncomfortable, isn't it? Our instinct is often to either fight back or walk away. But Jesus called us to something greater. He didn't say, "Blessed are those who ignore problems," or "Blessed are those who win arguments." He said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." But let's be clear. Being a peacemaker is not about avoiding conflict. It's not about sweeping things under the rug and pretending everything is fine. True peacemaking takes courage. It means stepping into broken situations, into conversations that might be uncomfortable, and bringing reconciliation, not division. Look at Jesus. He walked into a world filled with tension, Jews and Romans, Pharisees and tax collectors, sinners and the self-righteous. And what did he do? He didn't take sides. He built bridges. He dined with outcasts. He forgave those who wronged him. He showed us that peace isn't the absence of conflict, but the presence of love in the middle of it. So let me ask you, is there a relationship in your life that needs peace? A wound that needs healing? Maybe it's time to stop waiting for the other person to make the first move. Maybe it's time for you to be the peacemaker. It won't always be easy. Sometimes it means apologizing first. Sometimes it means listening when you'd rather defend yourself. Sometimes it means loving when you don't feel like it. But every time you choose peace over pride, you reflect the heart of Jesus. And in a world desperate for unity, what could be more powerful than that? Rest in God, the peace your soul longs for. Have you ever felt completely exhausted? Not just physically, but deep in your soul. The kind of tiredness that sleep can't fix. Maybe you're carrying the weight of expectations, the pressure to hold everything together, the worries that never seem to leave your mind. And no matter how hard you try, the burden only gets heavier. But listen to Jesus' words. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Not try harder, not figure it out on your own, but come. Jesus isn't offering temporary relief. He's not handing out a quick fix. He's offering something deeper, true rest, soul rest, the kind of peace that doesn't depend on your circumstances, the kind of rest that comes not from escaping your problems, but from surrendering them. Think about a child in their father's arms. They don't worry about tomorrow. They don't stress about what's coming next. They simply rest because they trust. What if today, instead of carrying everything on your own, you placed your burdens in God's hands? What if, instead of striving, you surrendered? Because here's the truth. You were never meant to do this alone. Rest isn't a reward for getting everything right. It's an invitation to trust the one who already has. So, take a deep breath. Let go. And let God give you the peace your heart has been searching for. Endurance in trials. Strength in the storm. Have you ever faced a season where everything felt like a test? Where temptation, doubt, or hardship seem to surround you like an unrelenting storm? Maybe you're in that season right now. The weight of the struggle is pressing in, and you're wondering, how much longer can I hold on? Jesus knows exactly what that feels like. For 40 days in the wilderness, he was hungry, weak, and alone. The enemy came at him with every temptation, doubt, power, self-sufficiency. If you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. Bow down and I will give you everything. Yet through it all, Jesus stood firm, not by sheer willpower, not by relying on his own strength, but by anchoring himself in God's word. He didn't fight temptation with arguments. He fought it with truth, and that's the key. When trials come, when your patience is tested, when you're tempted to give up, your strength won't come from within. It will come from who you trust. What if your trial isn't meant to break you, but to build you? What if the wilderness isn't a punishment, but a preparation? Jesus walked out of that desert stronger than he entered, and you can too. Hold on, stay grounded in truth. Keep praying even when you don't see results yet. Because endurance doesn't just get you through the trial, it transforms you because of it. And on the other side, victory, inner peace. Amid suffering, the calm that defies the storm. Pain, we all face it. Maybe for you it's the pain of betrayal, the loss of someone you love, a season of suffering that feels unbearable. And in those moments the question rises in your heart. How can I find peace in this? Look at Jesus, hanging on the cross, abandoned, falsely accused, suffering beyond what words can describe. And yet, he was calm, not because the pain wasn't real, not because the suffering wasn't agonizing, but because he trusted in something greater. Instead of anger, he chose forgiveness. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Instead of despair, he chose surrender. Into your hands, I commit my spirit. That kind of peace isn't natural, it's supernatural. And the good news? It's available to you. Peace in suffering doesn't mean ignoring the pain. It means trusting that God is working through the pain. It means knowing that even when life feels out of control, God is still in control. So let me ask you, what storm are you facing today? What wound still hurts? What situation seems impossible? Instead of fighting it on your own, what if you surrendered it fully to God? What if, instead of letting suffering steal your peace, you let God's presence sustain you through it? Because suffering is real, but so is the peace that surpasses all understanding. And today, you can choose to rest in it. The promise of peace, a calm that cannot be shaken. What if I told you there is a peace so deep, so unshakable, that no storm in life can take it away? Not financial stress, not health struggles, not heartbreak, not even the chaos of the world around you. Jesus didn't promise his followers an easy life. He didn't say, "Follow me, and everything will be smooth." No, he said something even more powerful. "In this world, you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world." That's the promise, not a life without storms, but peace within them. Think about a raging storm at sea. Winds howling, waves crashing. Everything around you is in turmoil. But deep beneath the surface, the ocean is still, calm, unmoved. That's the kind of peace Jesus offers. A peace that doesn't come from perfect circumstances, but from perfect trust. The disciples learned this firsthand. When they were caught in a violent storm, panicking, fearing for their lives, Jesus was asleep. Not because he didn't care, but because he was at peace. And when he spoke, "Peace, be still," the storm obeyed. And here's the truth. That same Jesus is still in your boat. The waves may be high, but he is higher. The winds may roar, but his voice is stronger. So what's shaking your peace today? What storm feels overwhelming? Take heart. The peace Jesus promised isn't just for a moment. It's for a lifetime. And it's for you, right now. Will you receive it? We've walked through these lessons together. Lessons of patience, trust, endurance, and unshakable peace. We've seen how Jesus remained calm in the storm, at peace in suffering, and steady in the face of trials. And now, the question is, how will you respond? This isn't just theory. It's an invitation to live differently, to choose peace over panic, faith over fear, love over division, to step into the kind of calm that doesn't come from having a perfect life, but from knowing the one who holds your life in his hands. So today, pause, reflect. Which lesson spoke to you the most? What area of your life needs Jesus' peace? And most importantly, how will you live this out? You don't have to do this alone. Faith is meant to be walked out in community. So share this message. Invite someone into this journey with you. And if you haven't yet, take that step. Join a faith community. Surround yourself with people who will encourage and strengthen you. Because the peace Jesus promised isn't just for reading about. It's for living. And it's for you, right here, right now. Will you step into it?